Jim Henson was a pretty cool dude. He managed to touch so many people across the globe with his passion and love. Everyone has different views on his works. I think that when most people think of Jim Henson, they think of the Muppets. I mean, why wouldn't they? It was certainly his most iconic property, and for good reason too. But if I'm to be completely honest, when I think of Jim Henson, the first thing that comes to mind is the 1982 film The Dark Crystal. Though this didn't have quite the impact of the Muppets or was as widespread as Labyrinth, I think this is one of his greatest accomplishments and I absolutely adore it, if you can't tell from the title. Though I may just be of this belief due to my immense love and, honestly, bias for sci-fi and fantasy stories. But regardless of that bias, which is probably there, I figured that I might have a look at it today and talk about it for a bit. So the greatest thing about it is undoubtedly the puppetry. The puppets are absolutely beautifully designed. They're so creative and unique. I don't think I've ever seen anything like the Skeksis or the Mystics. The Gelflings, though, just look a bit more disturbing most of the time. I don't know what, but something about the way Jen's puppet looks seems off-putting to me. The extremes that they manage to take the puppetry is insane. This movie doesn't prominently feature any human characters and only has physical actors for a few fast shots of characters running and whatnot. There are many scenes where they manage to control these puppets so that they seem so lifelike when it seems impossible to hide a puppeteer. And regardless of the lack of human characters, you never feel disconnected from the story. It's much more of a plus than it's a subtractor. In other Jim Henson properties, like Labyrinth, for example, I tend to feel pulled out of the plot by the abstract looking puppets who are standing right next to human characters. It just feels a bit odd. But here, everyone fits the same visual design, so you never really feel disconnected. The set design is also absolutely amazing, and it's almost all practically done. There are some scenes which are done using CGI, but they are in the vast minority. This scene, for instance, is just so pretty. There are a ridiculous amount of elements all at play. The set design, the puppetry, the sound effects, it's all really great, and it works to make this amazing world. The world is really awesome. Thra, though it's never actually referred to as Thra in the movie, is a pretty cool fantasy world. The creatures, the mythos, and background are all really original, though Gelfling is obviously just Elfling, but with a G. The Gotham are also really frightening, and seeing as they wiped out the entire population of Gelfling, they have the accomplishments to back their threatening appearance. The plot is an aspect where there is a bit of a step down, however. It's pretty slowly paced, and it feels like everything is taking a little bit too long. I definitely think it could be better in that aspect. There is a lot of events which take place with barely any setup. So if you look between the lines and take into consideration what we know from other material, and the prequel show in particular, you can draw reasons for things to be happening. And somewhat infamously and memishly, the way that the Skeksis and Mystics just walk into each other at the end, and then they are white tree aliens. And though it is set up with it being clear the Mystics and Skeksis are connected, as when something happens to one, it happens to the other. But it's still out of left field and seems somewhat out of place. There are also many questions that go unanswered, like why do only the Gelfling's essence seem to restore the Skeksis' youth? If the Podsling's essence is useless, why do they drain them to begin with? They drain energy from the sun, but they still need the essence of Gelfling to stay young. A lot of whys. And many of them, at least to my awareness, have no real answers. Also, wow, this movie has a few made up words. I'm just looking through this script. There are so many spelling errors. But yeah, that's about all I can think to say. So, cheers for sticking around. through this little rant of mine. If you somehow managed to enjoy it, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. It would be much appreciated. But if you didn't enjoy, that's okay. Yeah. Um. Okay. Cheers.